Hi again, Sheila with Creative Aging. We are going to do some more card making, which it's been a while, so we needed to do more. And we're going to work with some splatter painting with watercolors and Sharpie. And so for this project, you need your ultra fine point Sharpie pen. You're going to need your watercolor paints, of course, and a small point brush. And we need our watercolor paper. We're cutting it down. And so this is just a small piece of watercolor paper with a painting on the back. See how I recycle things? Anyway, so this is small watercolor paper, and I found these on sale, and I've been looking for an excuse to use them. So I'm going to use these today. You can get these. These are often on sale, at craft stores, but they're a card making pad. And of course you can use anything for this project, but this is what I have. And it's got all these colors. And so if anybody really likes card making, these little things are awesome. And, you could make a whole bunch of them for years to come. So this will last a while, but you don't have to have that. You can also just, cut a piece of white cardstock and fold it and make your own card. And so you do not have to, buy anything fancy. This is just cardstock folded in half, and then you can just put it with your envelope and glue it all together that way. And so you have lots of options. I think whatever you have, use. That's what I do. So I've been really wanting to use these things because they've been there for years. I think I bought them on sale 4 years ago. All right, so start with your small piece of watercolor paper. And we are not going to start with the drawing because the Sharpie actually gets a little bit covered up with the paint. So we're going to start with the painting part. And we've never done splattering of paint. And so I think it's going to be really therapeutic for everybody. Messy. It's good to get messy. So you need to make sure your table's covered because, watercolor will wash up, but just, it's better to not get it splattered on your carpet or a table that's hard to clean. So I just have a big piece of paper. This table is really easy to clean. And then you can just make sure your water's clean. Have a paper towel ready, which somehow, I've got mine. So have a paper towel ready. And just start splattering and painting some colors. Now, think about your color wheel. I'm going to do just kind of a rainbow of colors because I like blending and I think it's fun to just use a little bit of everything and see how they mix together. So you can kind of start by dotting and moving the color around. And of course, rinse your brush as always in between each color. Do some oranges. And I'm leaving some negative space as well. And so I'm starting with painting, and I might splatter here in a minute. Actually, I'm going to splatter right now because I've got a lot of water on this pink. So I want this pink to kind of bleed into the orange and make a new shade. And then when you splatter, you can do it a few ways. I like to personally just hold my paintbrush and just tap it because then I have more control over where it's going to go. And so you can do this, and then it's just going to kind of bleed into the other colors. So we're going to keep going because we're going to do a lot more. And you don't want too much water on the brush, but you don't want too little either. So you're going to get a feel for this. It's kind of experimental today. You just kind of have to figure it out. I love splattering paint, to be honest. I love it so much. I love pastels. I just like anything where I can have an excuse to get really messy. It's super fun. And let's see. We'll do some more yellow, let those kind of go into each other. So see, I'm using quite a bit of water. I'm letting it kind of almost like a tie-dye or something. Like all of it's going into one another. You just want to be careful that you're not making a muddy brown. So in between colors, you know, you can always just splatter. Now that one you can't see very much because it was too light. So if I wanted to go back to my red, and if you think you have too much water on the brush, just make sure to dot it away. So let's see how this looks. So I'm gonna get it right up there. There we go. And this is good. This is really gonna be experimental for you guys. It will help you learn how to blend colors and figure out what works and what doesn't work. And remember, if you don't like something, if there's too much splatter, just dot it away while it's still wet. Okay, keep going. I'll go to some blue up here and so on my first one that I did, I actually did the drawing first, and then I splattered on top of it. But then I had to redo all my pen marks because they just got a little bit faded. So I decided to do it the opposite way this round. So we'll see how it works out. I just don't want to make you guys draw the whole thing twice. I'm gonna do a pop of green right in there. And remember, this green kind of mixes well with this yellow, so you can definitely let those go into each other. Now the pink and green, maybe not so much. So maybe leave that, leave a gap, and we'll put some purple in there. But you don't really want these all to go into each other. You want this to look pretty cheerful and colorful. I don't know if you want browns. The browns will take over very fast. And I'll switch to this green. And since this one's so dark, I'll probably splatter with it too. I'll do a little bit. Now I've got a lot of water. I want you to notice how much water is there so you can watch it drip. So because there's so much water there, I'm gonna be careful about what color I put in between because it can easily run into these warm colors. So you wanna keep your warm colors and your cool colors kind of separated, especially if the paper is still really wet. And we're using a lot of water, so I just want you to be careful. Now, once that dries up a little bit or will blot some of the water away, then you can fill in that space with any color you want. So I'm not gonna do that much green. Let's go ahead and splatter that green up here some though. Maybe in the yellow. And of course, you know, if you wanna go up here, you can splatter as little or as much as you want. And of course, you don't have to do it this way. So see, I'm just holding my brush and then I'm pointing my brush kind of where I want it to splatter, and then I'm just hitting the tip, like right at the edge. Now, if you wanted to go like this, you can, but remember, when you go up, it's gonna splatter your face or it might splatter your couch. Just be really careful. That's why I do it this way. I feel like there's more control, and then it just goes one direction, and I have this covered. So you wanna get crazy and messy and do it. If you have a good art room, I say do it, but I just wanna warn you that it can be a little much, and I don't want you to have to clean watercolor paint off your couch. Especially some of these darker colors might be not easy to wash out. I've never had to do that, so I don't know. And let's do some purple. So this is so dark, I don't mind going up in here, and even if it blends a little bit, it'll be okay. And that's really dark, so I'm gonna blot that in a minute. Let's use, we haven't used this little purpley color, so let's use that. We'll go right in here, let those go together. And you know, leave as much negative space as you want. If you want to leave some of your paper to show, it looks good. So you can blot it if you want. If you feel like something got too dark, If you want to blot it and then you want to move some of that color back up there, I'm going to dot my brush away. I feel like there's a little much water in here. So I'm going to dot that through there and let it go back into this pink because it will create a new shade. And I think I'm going to add some more green in a minute too. There's something in here I don't like. I'm sure you can see it. I think this side looks really good. See that green and the purple? You may like it. If you like it, leave it. For some reason, I'm not liking it. So I'm going to keep working on it. Let's go back to my pink. And I'm going to dot this pink around into my green. And maybe I'll splatter some pink over here. Now, if you want bigger splatters, you need more water. So let me show you the difference. See how tiny those little dots are? That's because there wasn't much water. Now, if you want to have bigger drops, just a little more water, do the same thing again. It's gonna be bigger. So let me show you. So see, it got bigger. So now that's gonna be another thing you need to just experiment with. I'm gonna add a little bit more dark purple at the bottom maybe. And on the sides. Maybe even go up into that blue if you want. So you can get these to blend together and so see, I added quite a bit of purple and now I'm just gonna dot it and just move it through a little bit. And you can use really, I want you to kind of experiment and play with things on this project. So if you want to try a different brush, you can. I know you guys have these brushes, so I wanted to just make it easy so you're not thinking about all that stuff. But if you have other brushes, play with them, try them out. And we can always add more color later after we do the drawing. So I think this is pretty good backdrop. And if you wanted to do more splattering, of course, keep going. Let's do some purple. I'm kind of scared to do the purple, but I'm gonna do it. If you want to test too, you can always test first because that's dark. I don't know if you can see what I just did. But let's do it. Let's try it. It's going to be dark, but let's just do a little bit. You may love it. You may hate it. But hey, remember, we have our paper towel. We can always blot some of it away. This is supposed to be just fun. Okay. I like it. Let's let this dry. And then while this is drying, you might as well take out a piece of paper and kind of practice a little drawing that you want to do. If you, you can of course do whatever you'd like. This is, you know, just some easy roses and different types of flowers. I feel like flowers kind of can go with any kind of holiday or card or just any general like wishing you well type of card. So that's why I did flowers, but we just did that hot air balloon project. If you wanted to draw a hot air balloon and do some kind of uplifting message, you could do that. We can do any drawing in the ink. So just think about it while you let this dry. Maybe sketch it out, practice. You can even figure out, like, you know, your materials. Like you can get these other materials ready because you're gonna need some tacky glue or not Elmer's glue. It needs to be thicker glue when you glue the watercolor paper because it's pretty thick, you can see. So you're gonna need tacky glue, craft glue, or wood glue would be fine. Just not Elmer's glue. It's gonna bubble it. It's gonna bubble everything, and you're gonna be very upset. So go ahead and get that ready. Let that dry, and then we'll start our drawing. Okay, so I gave this a few minutes to dry. Make sure that it's dry before you put your pen to the paper, because you don't want to tear your paper and you don't want to ruin this pen. So, yeah, just you can feel it and you can tell when it's dry. So I know this is dry. This side, the last part I did right here, feels just a little bit like it's dry, but it just needs a little bit more. You can tell the way the paper moves. And so let me show you again. This is what we have. All right, very abstract stuff today, so a little different. As far as the drawing goes, you know, please feel free to do your whatever you want on this. I want you to have fun and actually send this card or give it to somebody. If you want to do these flowers, that's fine too. Just whatever will make you happy. Because we've done enough drawing with these pens that you should feel comfortable kind of doing your own thing. And you know, and then today I did these roses because it should remind you of our clay roses that we did. It's very similar, the drawing is. So I try to do like repeat things sometimes just to trigger what we've already learned together. So of course, you know, let's start with the yellows because I did this part first and I know it's dry. Before you start, figure out the placement. Like, do you want all your flowers to be the same height? Or do you want one big one and lots of little ones? So really visually plan out your composition before you start. And some of you may freak out just going straight to pen. If you feel you need to use pencil first, go ahead and do it. I am actually just gonna dive right in and use my pen because I don't wanna draw it twice. And make sure your pen's good. Okay, there. I had a bad pen earlier, so I was hoping I didn't grab the right one. Sometimes these pens need a jump start. And just be slow, you know, there's no rush. If you need to look at an image that you want to pick your own kind of flower online, do it. And you'll know if the paper is still a little wet, this pen won't work very well. So if your pen is not working great, then check it. It might be the pen or it might be the paper's still a little wet. And if you want, you know, you can do your biggest one first, or you could just kind of go down in a row. I think I'm just gonna go down this way. Sorry, I was thinking and taking my time. And so for the rose, I'm gonna do a big rose right up here. I like this part. It's really bright yellow, so I'm gonna do it right there. Hopefully hopefully you can see I moved this closer. I hope you can see it okay. So I'm just gonna do kind of like a swirl. Now remember, we kind of started our clay roses out just like this. And then we rolled the clay to where it just had shapes around the center. So just draw some sort of center. It can be a dot, it can be a swirl, and then just get your petals and make them, you know, overlapping around that center. So that's how it starts. And just keep going. Make it as big as you want. Make the petals get bigger and bigger. You know, if you have an open rose. It's nothing, this is not a fancy flower. It's not super realistic. This is a fun, you know, line drawing. So, I mean, it's on splatter, you know, splatter art. So you don't have to be realistic on this project. And decide if you like it that big. I'm gonna leave it there. I might add more petals later, but I'd rather get the shape and then get the other, you know, I might add more petals later. All right, and then just, I'm doing some crookedy stems. Okay, that's what I've got. And then just keep going. And notice, you know, I wanted this flower to be pointing out off the page. And so sometimes it looks weird if all your flowers, like just think of your composition. If you have all your flowers going the same way, your eye's gonna just maybe get stuck in one section. And so you really do need to think about how each thing, I mean, even though this is gonna be a card, it's still a piece of little art. You want this flower, I put it off the, where it's looking off the page, so that your eye kind of goes off the page and will come back to over here. And so while you're drawing, you really need to think about placement, composition, how you're going to make these look interesting on this, you know, colorful background. And how you're, you know, even where I put this leaf, I didn't want this leaf to go behind that petal. So I wanted the leaf to be separate enough to where there, you know, there's some space, so it's not crowding, especially since we're doing a line drawing, it would look weird. And so everything I do, I really am thinking about what I'm doing and where I'm putting things. And so I know this is a simple drawing, but you still need to be patient and have a lot of thought and, you know, how you're positioning everything on your paper. And so now let's do another rose. Actually, yeah, let's do another rose. Okay, I'll do a little smaller one right here. I'll start it kind of the same. It's almost just like a curly shape. And your pen, sometimes you have to go over your lines again. That might be normal. These pens are really sensitive. So if you hold them even wrong, let me show you. If you even hold it too much at an angle, it's not gonna work. These pens, they just wanna be positioned just right. So it's fine there, but you just tilt it a little bit more and the ink doesn't come out the same. So if your pen is being weird, just think about how you're holding it, test it out a few times. And you do need to be slow because you want this ink to come out evenly and you want it to be a dark line. You don't want one line to be faded. I mean, maybe you do. And if you do, that's fine too. Just make sure it's on purpose. And there's a lot of space, so maybe I'll put something there later. I might leave it. I'm just gonna keep going and then I'll decide. I'll do another kind of this type of flower on this edge. I'll make it almost the same size as my other rose. So this one's different. I'm just kind of doing almost like a butterfly wing shape. And then, so that now there's this center point right here. And then just some other petals on the sides. And remember, you can always look at images, Google whatever flower you want. You can Google any kind of line drawing. Just put, you know, roses line drawings and you can kind of look at what you exactly want online. And then now, look, keep looking at it. Decide other shapes you might want. If you just want some that look like they're budding, you can just draw it, and you know, it doesn't have to all be flowers. It's up to you, of course. So this is just repeating some of the shapes I already had. I'm gonna do both sides actually. I wish I knew flower names. I'm so sorry I don't. I wish I could tell you what I'm drawing right now. I have it in my head, but and think about if you want any more flowers, if you want any more petals, do you want to make your roses bigger? Just keep looking at it, figure out if you like it. If you want to write a message up here, you know, you can. If you want to write thinking of you or wishing you well or I miss you, you could do it with your pen. You know, just be, you know, maybe practice before. If you're going to write something out, just maybe practice up here and see what kind of, you know, letters you want to do and how you want to put it on your page, like how long will it take. So if you know, I like to do this. So see, I have this much room left. So if I did thinking of you, so I just practiced above it, so I'm not committing and then having something that I have to fix. So you could write it bigger. So just make sure, you know, before you write something on there, practice it first, and then that way you can, you know, you can write it. So if you did want to write thinking of you, make sure if you do it this size, put it more in the center instead of the edge. So since I practiced right there, I know kind of how big I should make my letters and how long it'll be. And so if I put it in the center, I think that'd look good. I'll just do that. And it doesn't have to be perfect handwriting, you know. Honestly, it looks good if it's not, because then people will know that you handmade this card. I mean, I'm not saying make it messy, but it doesn't have to be perfect block letters. So, I mean, it's up to you. You don't have to do a message. You could do the message inside the card. So now we have our little piece of watercolor ink art. Figure out if you do end up buying one of those little books, you know, you have card colors. They come with lots of different colors. So if you know, they have polka dots, they have stripes. So say I want polka dots. I tore it out already. And then you can just make sure to figure out what color it looks good with. And so, do you like it with the pink or do you like it on the yellow? I like it on the yellow for sure because I don't know. Kind of tones it down, and then this is the focal point. So once you figure out what you want to use, if you just use cardstock that's folded, you know, that's fine too. You could glue that right on top and then put it in an envelope. Now when you're gluing it, I'm not going to show you because you guys know how to glue. Just one tip. When you're gluing with remember, craft glue, tacky glue, or wood glue. Just go along a little bit on the outside of the edges. Just on the edges. And then, you know, make sure it's thick glue. So make sure you position it, and the glue, you'll be able to move it. And then once you get it the right place, I want you to hold it. And don't stop holding it. Make sure to push down on that thing for a good 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes. And if you want, you know, even after you put your hand on it and make sure it's glued down, put it face down and put a book on it. And I want you to flatten that out, and I want you to let it sit and the glue to harden for a good 5 to 10 minutes. And so that's going to make your card perfectly flat. And so after you do that and you leave it under a book, a heavy book, it's gonna be so perfect. And it'll be ready to put in the envelope. Don't put that in the envelope until it's totally, you know, flattened and dried. So I would wait 30 minutes before you put it in an envelope. But you can make several of these things. And yeah, I hope you learned something. Hope you have fun. If any facility wants some of these pages that from this little book that I have a couple of these books. Let me know. I can deliver these. So I'm happy to get rid of this. I'd love to get rid of this. I'm serious. I've had it 5 years. So if you need some cards, let me know. If not, you know, use some white cardstock or colored cardstock and just fold and make your own. Then glue it together. Got a nice little professional card. All right. See you next time. Bye.